On Sunday afternoon, the cheapest serious model on our board stops being cheap. Not because anyone broke a promise, because the promise was never there. And this week, somebody read the small print out loud. Welcome to Naderu Weekly. I'm Nitin. Each week, we go through what actually changed in foundation models, then take one thing apart properly. Every number is sourced in the description, and where we could only get it secondhand, we say so. With me is Ira, who serves these models for a living.
And who spent Thursday rewriting a cost model that was correct on Wednesday.
Before the news, we were wrong 3 times this week, and all 3 were our own errors, so they go first. We have been telling you Meta has no first-party API and that every llama price on our board is a host's price because there is nothing else to cite. The second half is still true, the first half is not. Meta has been running a paid API since July, serving a model called Muse Spark. We also carried Devstral 2 as a current Mistral model for 2 weeks. It was deprecated in May and retired on the 30th of June. It had been off the pricing page the whole time, and we did not check the deprecation list.
And we said Alibaba gives you a 90% discount on cached input. That is the rate for an explicit cache, which you create and manage yourself. The implicit cache, the one you get by default, bills at 20% of input, not 10. So the discount most people actually receive is 80, and we quoted the better of the two numbers as though it were the only one. One thing did go the other way. Last week we retracted a 272,000 token threshold we should never have published. This week that number is on OpenAI's pricing page, for GPT 5.5 and 5.4, and still not for the 5.6 series we had applied it to. So the retraction was right, and the number was real, just attached to different models.
Right, the headlines. 5 things moved, and the first one is the episode. DeepSeek is raising the price of its V4 models on Sunday and introducing peak hour billing. Google shipped Gemini 3.7 Flash and halved 3.6 Flash on the same day. XAI shipped Grok 4.6 at the same headline price as 4.5 with a more expensive cache. Anthropic cancelled Plot Sonnet 5 September increase, and Meta, as we just said, has a paid API and a closed model.
Start with the number, because the number is genuinely large. DeepSeek V4 Flash output is 28 cents per million tokens today. From Sunday, it is 66 cents off peak, and $1.32 at peak. That is 4.7 times today's rate at the top. V4 Pro moves the same way. 87 cents of output becomes $3.96 at peak. And the worst single line is cache hit input on V4 Pro, which goes from 1/3 of a cent to 4.5 cents. 12 times. That is the largest increase this board has recorded since we started it.
And the mechanism is new, at least on our board. Nobody else here charges by the hour of day. It starts at 4 in the afternoon UTC on the 16th. After that, peak is 1 to 4 in the morning UTC and then 6 to 10. 7 hours a day at double the off-peak rate with a 2-hour gap in the middle that is cheap.
That gap is the tell. Convert those windows to Beijing time, and peak is 9 to 12 in the morning and 2 to 6 in the afternoon. It is a working day. The cheap 2 hours in the middle are lunch, which matters because off-peak is only a discount if you are asleep when they say so. In India, that peak lands at 6:30 to 9:30 in the morning and 11:30 to 3:30, most of a working morning. On the US West Coast, it is evening and overnight. Same workload, different bill, decided by where your users are.
Does it change what you would actually pick?
For the first time, yes. Compare V4 Flash to GPT 5.6 Luna, which OpenAI cut 80% a fortnight ago. Luna is 20 cents in, $1.20 out. At DeepSeek's peak rate, V4 Flash is 44 cents in and $1.32 out. Dearer on both. The American Frontier Labs small model undercuts the Chinese OpenWeight Labs Flash model on both sides of the bill. Off-peak, it splits. Luna still wins on input, 20 cents against 22. DeepSeek still wins on output, 66 cents against $1.20. So the answer stops being a model and starts being a timetable, which is a worse question to have to answer.
2. Briefly, Google released Gemini 3.7 Flash on Thursday at 75 cents in and 375 out. That is half what 3.6 Flash cost when it launched 3 weeks earlier. And Google cut 3.6 Flash to the same rate on the same day, which tells you what they thought of its reception. Both rates are introductory and both double on the 1st of January. And 3.7 flash is the rare Google row where the documentation states the context window and the output ceiling outright, 1,064,000, instead of leaving us to write not stated on the board.
3 is the one that will catch people. Grok 4.6 shipped on Tuesday at exactly Grok 4.5's headline price, $2 in, $6 out, below a 200,000 token prompt. So it reads as a free upgrade. Cached input went from 30 cents to 50, 67% dearer. If you run an agent loop replaying a long, stable prefix, which is most agent loops, the newer model costs more per turn, while every headline says it costs the same. We kept 4.5 on the board rather than retiring it, because for that workload, it is still the cheaper row.
4 and 5 together. Anthropic has cancelled Claude Sonnet 5's price rise. We told you twice it would go from 2 and 10 to 3 and 15 on the 1st of September. The pricing page now says that increase will not occur. If you built a fourth quarter budget on our warning, you over-provisioned, and we would rather say so than quietly drop it. And Meta's Muse Spark is $25 in, $425 out, with a million token window and no long context premium. It is a good rate. It is also Meta's first close model on Meta's own endpoint, which is a different company from the one that spent 3 years defining itself by open weights.
Back to Sunday, because there is a part worth sitting with. DeepSeek announced this on the 13th. It lands on the 16th. That is 3 days. And they were completely entitled to it. Their pricing page has always said rates may vary, and that they reserve the right to adjust them. We have been quoting that line on the board for weeks, filed under things to be aware of. Nobody broke a contract this week. A theoretical risk simply became a real one, on a Thursday, with a spreadsheet attached.
Episode 1 asked which custody you were buying. This is that question with a number on it. By the way, Ira and I are synthetic voices. The research, the script, and the arithmetic are done by the Naderu team, and every figure is sourced in the description.
And what is striking is how little actually changed. The weights are identical. The license is still MIT. Your right to download V4 and run it on your own hardware is exactly what it was on Wednesday. What changed is a number on somebody else's page. That is not an argument that everyone should self-host. Most teams should not. It is an argument that when a hosted price is load-bearing in your business, you should know whether you have an alternative, and this week is the cheapest possible way to find out that you do.
So what would we actually do before Sunday?
Today, plot your DeepSeek traffic against those 7 hours. Most teams have never looked at their token spend by hour of day, and will be surprised either way. This sprint, move anything batch out of the peak windows. Nothing about that is a migration, it is a cron expression. And rerun your routing comparison, because the cheapest row on our board may not be the one your config points at anymore. This quarter, if that price was holding up a margin, read the license. It is MIT. That is the version of this model nobody can reprice on 3 days' notice.
One piece of housekeeping, and it is not a good one. We promised to measure what Anthropic's new tokenizer does to a real bill in episode 1 and promised it again in episode 2. It still is not done. It needs a real workload run against both tokenizers, and we will not publish an estimate dressed up as a measurement. This week, the time went into the board instead. A choice, not an excuse. So we are going to stop trailing it. It turns up measured or it does not turn up.
Everything here is on the board, sourced, dated, and marked where we could not confirm it firsthand. 2 providers we could not verify at all. Moonshot restructured its pricing page, and Grok stopped publishing rates. Those rows carry last week's date and say so, rather than quietly looking current.
The question we would leave you with, when your bill doubles at 1 in the morning UTC, will you find out from a dashboard or from an invoice? Every provider on our board reserves the right to do what DeepSeek just did. One of them actually did it. That is Naderu Weekly. The board is at naderu.com/models-board, and there is a written version of this episode there too. Next week, if the numbers are in, what the peak rate actually did to real bills. Measured, not estimated.